Hans Skillrud is the co-founder of Termageddon, a subscription-based privacy policy solution for web design agencies to resell to their clients. Prior to Termageddon, Hans ran a 12-person web agency where he sold services to businesses ranging from a single person to startups to publicly traded companies. Today, Hans is on a mission to demystify the sales process. He wants to help you confidently sell subscription-based services to your prospects and clients. So let's get started.
Thanks, Allie, for having me today. And I am super excited to talk about selling subscriptions and the basics of sales. Sales is one of my favorite things to discuss because I think there's a lot of misconceptions out there about what sales is. I think a lot of people think of sales as a bad thing, and I hope in today's lecture you will find out that it's not so much a bad thing as it is who you are as a person and whether or not you want to do good things or bad things with sales. So in today's discussion, we'll be defining sales, what it really is, what makes good salespeople do sales. We're going to do a live presentation of what a sales process looks like, and then we're going to also talk about how to sell subscriptions. Before we jump into that, I just want to mention my name is Hans, as Ali said. I'm the co-founder of Termageddon. Termageddon is a website policies generator that automatically updates website policies when the laws change. We are a subscription service, and I help web agencies all over America, the US and Canada, by providing them a solution to offer to their clients so that their clients can limit their liability and reduce their chances of being fined or sued for privacy law noncompliance. We give web agencies a free set of policies with our agency partner program, and that's about enough of a sales plug as I'll do today. Prior to Termageddon, I ran a 12-person web agency. I started from the ground floor, just a one-person company in an apartment, and I built it up to a 12-person company operating in downtown Chicago. I sold that business in April of last year to go full-time Termageddon, and it was a wild ride, and I loved it. Prior to my agency life, I was a sales manager at Groupon. I was actually one of the first employees there too, which was really cool. And by one of the first, I mean one of the first 100 before it became like 30,000 people. But yeah, ultimately I was managing about a sales team of about 100 people, which is a really great experience. All right, so let's get into it. The first thing we're going to talk about is what sales actually is. Sales is a communication channel. It is not good nor bad. It is simply a means to pass off value to someone else who may not understand the value in something, whether it be a service or a product. It is people, not sales necessarily, it is people that decide to use sales to do good things or bad things. And I want to stop right here and let you know that I don't really think this would be a good lecture for those people who want to do sales to take advantage of people so they can make as much money as possible. There's not a bone in my body that feels that way, and I don't think this training will work well for people just wanting to take advantage. So if you are thinking, I just want to make as much money as possible and I'm going to leverage sales to do that, I don't think this presentation is really going to be that helpful for you. If you are, however, someone who thinks, well, I don't do sales because I'm just a good person and I don't want to screw over my client, then this is absolutely the right lecture for you. And I'm also going to make an assumption that, I come from the web design world. I entered that world after leaving Groupon because I felt like businesses didn't have to discount themselves to, necessarily, bring in new customers. And that was my fuel to my fire to start my own agency. I wanted to help the small business owner out, not in terms of discounting themselves, but rather just more effectively broadcasting online what they can offer to this world and how they can help people out. I think most web agencies, at least the ones that I've spoken with, are good people that want to offer a service, be paid fairly, and want to help businesses out, get the word out about what they have to offer the world as well. So, how do good people do sales? That's really the topic of today's discussion, and it's very simple. Speak the truth. Speaking the truth is the easiest thing that I think anyone can do. Maybe you have to consciously think about it, and just think like, what does my prospect not know about what I have to offer? What are they thinking they think they need when I can actually help them understand what they actually need? And I'll say speaking the truth is what builds trust, and that's an important thing to remember. But when agencies have inquiries from clients, I think so often they get inquiries from prospects where the prospect is like, I want the prettiest website in the world. I want it to challenge all websites in terms of design and user experience. And as I've been hardened as an agency owner, I came to realize that usually when businesses come in saying they want the prettiest website in the world, they've misdiagnosed what they actually want. Usually what they actually want are more sales. They want more revenues. They want more inquiries for their business. And they think a pretty website will be what delivers that. Now, don't get me wrong. A well-designed website certainly broadcasts how professional a business is. But how do people get to that website? Just because you have the prettiest website in the world, how are people going to find it? And little questions like that can help you peel back the onion and have these prospects who've pre-diagnosed themselves kind of step back and realize, what do they actually want? And when I say speak the truth, there's a lot that goes into it, which we'll discuss shortly, but it's all about getting to, the point of where someone needs to go with their business, however they're coming to you with where they stand at the moment. I think good people have the ability to speak the truth. And by speaking the truth, and what I mean by that is, when you share your service offering, share what you're not good at, share what you are good at, share what they're going to get, share what they're not going to get. Speaking the truth is what builds trust, and trust is so important in sales. And you have the opportunity to build trust naturally by just being a good person, not trying to lie about anything. Termageddon, a great example. I'm in an industry where I'm offering a service to web agencies who probably for years copy and pasted privacy policies for their clients and thought nothing of it. And I'm the first one to say, look, there's not a whole lot of businesses that are in trouble right now for privacy noncompliance. But the other side of the truth is the fact that there's 23 proposed privacy bills where businesses will be able to possibly be sued by people just for having a contact form on their website without a compliant privacy policy. And I can back that truth up with links to all these privacy bills in America and showcase to them what is happening in the future. So I speak the truth first and foremost. I always say, nothing beats an attorney. That's another thing I share. Nothing beats an attorney for getting your policies generated. But if you don't have the funds to afford an attorney to create your policies and keep them up to date over time, maybe a solution like Termageddon is a good fit. So, with those examples I just shared there, I shared with you just how I feel, which is the truth. Like, not a lot of people are in trouble right now for privacy noncompliance, but it looks like everything is a set to really be a big deal for small businesses in the future, and this is the time to be proactive. So, think to yourself, how do I speak the truth on how I'm selling something to my clients? Because again, sales is just a communication channel, and so often people think about websites. The websites are a tip of the iceberg to what actually entails building a website, as you know. And speaking the truth is all about educating clients on what it is to have a real lead-generating website. Speaking the truth builds trust. That is the biggest thing. If you're going to take away anything, that's the first biggest thing. The second biggest is the two-step process to sales. Step one is to listen. I cannot stress this enough. You need to truly listen to the people that are speaking with you. And we're going to talk about sales, but later on you're going to see that this really kind of just applies to life. This is just communicating. Natural, good old communication. It's an operating procedure for communicating effectively with people. Listening is the key part of sales, because when you listen, you are letting people share their thoughts and their insights into what they think they need for whatever they're trying to achieve. And if you don't listen intently and try to understand where this person's coming from, you will be not nearly as effective when heading into step two. Step two is when you acknowledge that you've Step two is acknowledge. The first part of step two is acknowledge, and you need to recap what someone has just told you. When someone's speaking to you, they're sharing their insights, and you need to respond back and show that you have recounted and correctly acknowledged what they had to say. Part two of step two is responding, and then the final step is asking, and we're going to dive into each one shortly here. So, part one of step two, acknowledge. When you acknowledge, you verify that you understand where someone's coming from. This is extremely important because, one, it lets the person know that you're speaking with that you aren't just feeding them whatever you want to feed them in terms of information. You're actually adjusting your messaging to how to tailor it to what they need to understand. So as I mentioned earlier, when someone says, I want the prettiest website in the world, you as a seasoned agency owner are probably thinking, okay, do they really want that? Or could they be thinking they want that because ultimately they want more sales? And you got to peel back that onion. But the first thing you can do is acknowledge, be like, hey, I totally hear you. And the good news is we can build gorgeous websites. I think I totally understand how a pretty website can be a great way to present yourself professionally online. There, you just acknowledged, and I was just speaking my truth, and that's exactly how I feel. A well-built website is professional. So by acknowledging, you are letting them know, hey, I'm on your level, I know where you're coming from. But then you need to respond. You need to provide insight that they might not necessarily be thinking about when they come to you with a pre-diagnosed thought on what they need as a solution. So for the example I just gave, hey, I want the prettiest website in the world. We acknowledge saying, hey, I get it. Pretty websites are absolutely needed for representing yourself on a professional level. But I do want to talk about, about the strategy on how one gets to a website. Because building a pretty website won't necessarily bring traffic to you. So, maybe we should talk about marketing budgets or search engine optimization, meaning getting to the top of Google's search engine rankings. And then you go to a question. This is so key. You keep the dialogue going by asking a question. And to take that example, I would ask the question, be like, if we build you a pretty website, will you have a plan in place to bring traffic so that people can see your website? What a wonderful question to ask, because you're basically putting a dagger right through the thought that they had of, I want the prettiest website in the world, and you will get direct insight into actually how they're thinking. So when you ask the question, if we build this pretty website, what are your plans to market and bring traffic to the website? You're probably going to get one of two answers. One, oh, I have a marketing team, they're going to spend 10 grand a month, and they're going to drive all the traffic to the site. Awesome. Turns out I, the web agency owner, didn't realize that they actually did have their stuff together and they're ready to go, and they truly do just need a pretty website. But I'm imagining most clients will say, oh, well, I don't know how I'm going to bring traffic to the website. I thought that's what you're going to do. And therein lies a major red flag that you have helped remove and uncover. So, I don't know about you, but in my early years of running my agency, so often I would build this pretty website for the client, and then they'd be like, well, why am I not ranking on Google? Because the client connected the two together. They thought, well, whenever I go to Google, I see pretty websites on page one, so I just assumed I would be on page one too. They didn't connect those dots. So by asking a question, you get to the bottom, you peel back that onion and figure out what they are actually trying to resolve, and you will be able to get to ultimately figuring out what they actually need. So I'm going to recap it before we go see this live in action. The first and foremost, you need to listen. You need to listen to your prospects. You need to understand where they're coming from, because if you don't get on their level when acknowledging, they're not going to build the trust with you that you so desperately need as a good person just trying to help them out. In step two, you need to acknowledge, respond, ask. You need to show that you understand where they're coming from. You need to provide perspective on, on a point that they might not necessarily see because they're not experts in your space. And then lastly, you need to ask a question. You need to keep the dialogue going, and you need to put the message ball back into their hands to be the ones to talk, giving you the ability to repeat and start listening again. Okay, so let's see this in action. I'm going to be showing you a clip from one of my favorite movies, from one of my favorite actors, Chris Farley.
I'll have chicken wings.
Kitchen's closed until dinner. Just got cold stuff and desserts.
Boy, some chicken wings would really hit the spot. You sure it's closed?
Let me check. Yep, it's closed.
Okay, I'll just have a sugar packet or two. Hey, what's your name?
Helen.
That's nice. You look like a Helen. Helen, we're both in sales. Let me tell you why I suck as a salesman. Let's say I go into some guy's office. Let's say he's even remotely interested in buying something. Well, then I get all excited. I'm like, Jojo, the idiot circus boy with a pretty new pet. The pet is my possible sale. Oh, my pretty little pet. I love you. So I stroke it, and I pet it, and I massage it. Yeah, I love it. I love my little naughty pet. You're naughty. And then I take my naughty pet and I go. Oh! I killed it! I killed my sale. That's when I blow it. That's when people like us have got to forge ahead, Helen. Am I right?
God, you're sick. Tell you what, I'll go turn the fryers back on and throw some wings in for you.
Hey, thanks, Helen. Tummy likey. Tummy want wingy.
Did that boy to the head knock something loose?
What are you talking about?
That 180 you just pulled with the waitress. Why can't you sell like that?
All right. So, I want to talk about this clip because there's a lot that goes into it. Not only was it funny and I felt like everyone deserved a break from my ramblings, but there's a lot of my presentation that can be found right in this exchange between Chris Farley and the waitress Helen. So first off, there was an act of listening. Chris matched Helen's temperament when starting the conversation. When he first got going, he's like, some wings would really hit the spot. Are you sure it's closed? And she's like, let me check. Yep. He never acknowledged. He didn't really have an opportunity to because he just met her. But what he did pick up on was, she's not really the friendliest person out there, which is fine. That everyone has different good days and bad days. But what he did was he matched her temperament. Because when he's like, okay, well, I'll have a sugar packet or two, he sounded defeated, but she kind of sounded defeated a little bit as well. He was listening and showing to her like that he's on her level because he matched her mood kind of. And then he went into acknowledging, Helen, we're both in sales. Let me tell you why I suck as a salesperson. So he acknowledged saying, trying to connect the two dots, like we're both in the act of doing sales. And then he responded, let me tell you why I suck as a salesperson. Now he goes off into a comedic rant, as any comedy movie with Chris Farley would. But this is where he's providing a perspective she never saw coming. I don't think anyone in the audience saw coming either. But ultimately, after he got done with his whole story, his whole charade of why he stinks as a salesperson, he brought it back into a question. That's why people like us need to forge ahead, Helen. Am I right? And what he's done here is he's connected the dots. He has shared the fact that we're both in sales and sometimes things are bad, but that's why we need to forge ahead. Am I right? And what he did, which was so critical in sales, is he paused. He asked a question and he let time take its course. And it took her a few seconds to say, God, you're messed up, or whatever she said. And then he even stayed paused and let her continue to collect her thoughts and put it together. And sure enough, she's like, you know what? I'm just going to turn on the fryer for this guy. And maybe it was because he kind of shared his frustrations himself, and maybe she could relate and was like, you know what? I'm going to help him out because maybe I see part of me in Chris just being so frustrated. I'm just going to help him out today. Whatever the case is, Chris paused. He asked a question, and when you ask a question, you need to be respectful and pause and let that other person get their thoughts out and take the time to truly listen. Truly listening is so easy to spot when you ask a question to someone and you're letting them take their time to share their thoughts and maybe make pauses without you just jumping in and trying to share your thoughts. Truly listen. I can't stress it enough. Okay, we're in the final stretch of our presentation, and what we're now going to do is talk about how to sell a website maintenance subscription. Now, there's a lot that goes into selling a website maintenance subscription, but what I decided to do was start off with what I'd imagine would be a very common reason why someone would not want to do a subscription, as I saw it many times when running my agency. I just don't want another subscription. How many of you have heard that? I just don't want to pay another recurring fee. And my question to you is, take some time and think about, first off, what's the next step? It is to acknowledge. The step after that is to respond. And the step after that is to ask. So the first thing you need to do is acknowledge. Now, how do you acknowledge a statement like this? I just don't want another subscription. How do you acknowledge a statement like this and speak the truth? Well, I'll show you what I would say. I can totally understand not wanting another subscription. I too avoid recurring payments as much as possible. Who doesn't try to avoid subscription payments? Who doesn't? I don't know one person on this earth that's like, I can't wait to pay for more subscription payments. No one loves that. Now, there's a lot of value in subscriptions, but this person right now has made the decision that they are wanting to close the door and I just don't want to pay that subscription fee, you know? When you know, they probably don't really realize how much goes into managing a website on a recurring basis from a security standpoint, from an SEO standpoint, and I'm sure many other standpoints I'm not sharing in today's lecture. So acknowledge. And how do you acknowledge with truth? Telling them that you hate subscriptions too. Unless you feel otherwise, what a great way to show this person you're on their same page. And then you need to respond. And I had like 100 different versions of responses I wrote up. So I'm going to have to actually read this one verbatim, unfortunately, because there were so many I went through. I forget which one I closed in on. So you acknowledge first, saying, I can totally understand not wanting another subscription. I, too, try to avoid recurring payments as much as possible. And the good news is that I have documentation that I will share with you that will show you what you will need to do on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis in terms of website upkeep. I can't stress enough how important it will be that you perform the daily check-ins to verify your plugins, theme, and core files are up to date. Having this go unchecked, even for a day or two, could result in your website being hacked. And fixing a hacked website would have to be something I would bill you hourly for, and it'll be a whole lot more expensive than a maintenance plan. Okay, so what you've done is you've responded. Now, I will note that in this example, I kind of condensed a whole bunch of stuff into one response when I think more naturally you should acknowledge, create a small response, and then ask a question that lets them kind of peel back that onion so that you can acknowledge, respond, and ask in a little bit more chunks. I kind of put a lot of stuff into this response just because this is a presentation, but ideally what you want to do is you want to minimize and be concise when speaking your response to a client, because one thing that salespeople can do is they can do what's called sales vomit, which is, that's such a gross word, but sales vomit is when you kind of regurgitate all these great things you have to offer, all these different perspectives, all in one response. And you're going to overwhelm your prospect because, again, they're not going to recollect all of it. And they're going to be overwhelmed. And that's the last thing you want to do is overwhelm them, because they're easy to overwhelm when they already have made their decision. I don't want a subscription. And you have this wealth of knowledge of why that's maybe not such a great idea to consider for your website maintenance. But again, I do the response here, and then ultimately I lead it to, part two, I'm sorry. So yes, our service is a subscription, which is annoying, but the good news is that it is only $100 a month and you can cancel anytime. I think that's why most of my clients end up going with it, because they'd rather hold me accountable for daily software check-ins and updates rather than themselves. So it starts to put it back in their hands. We're talking about a $100 a month fee or whatever you charge every month or year. But more so, we're talking about whose job will it be to manage a website in terms of security and SEO, a website expert or a business owner who's probably really busy doing a lot of other things as well. Then you need to bring it together and ask the question. With all that said, I'd be happy to send over the documentation to you so that you can review what needs to be done on an ongoing basis. Or if you'd like, I can set you up with a monthly maintenance plan with the card I have on file. Which one sounds better to you? So when you have that card on file, you really make it easy for someone to just say, all right, I'm just going to sign up with you. And that's why I worded it that way, because I tried this 100 times. And that brings me to my next slide, which is the fact that I gave you one response here, one way to acknowledge, respond, and ask when someone doesn't want a subscription. But there's many other ways you can acknowledge, respond, and ask. And right here, I put 3 common responses. Let experts be experts. When a small business owner starts a business, they're probably doing it because they're an expert in their field and they want to help their community or their prospects or clients by providing a service at an expert level. Small business owners, I think, really relate to the let experts be experts. And the fact is, as much as they may like the idea of them logging into their website to perform software updates on a daily basis, you know reality, which is in a few months, if not a few weeks, if not a few days, they will give up and their website will become dated and they'll become frustrated again with a non-working website, and they'll be back to the beginning when they inquire to some other website saying, hey, I need a new website, because they let it go. So let experts be experts is a wonderful way to respond to a person having issues with signing up with a subscription. Outdated websites perform poorly with Google rankings. This is a fact. You can go to Google and find articles that can reference this, but you may want to paint the picture of the reality of the fact that maybe a small business owner goes a day without updating their website, or a couple weeks, or all of a sudden a couple weeks turn into a couple months. These are the patterns of what Google doesn't want to see with a website. Google likes websites that stay up to date, provide content, and I think speaking to that will be very important, because when talking about a small monthly fee to keep a website up to date, you're helping a business owner by having their website have the best chances of being found on Google. Lastly, I want to note that there's something called a website owner's manual, which you can find on the adminbar.com. It's like $40 and it's genius. These people put together kind of a document that you can share with your client when finishing a website project. You can hand over this document saying, here's all the things you'll need to do to update and manage your WordPress website. And usually when the clients see that document, they're like, can you do this for me? Because they realize the truth, which is this is a lot of work, especially if your focus is not on website maintenance. If your focus is on anything else, website maintenance will not become a priority. They know the truth ultimately, that they will just give up on it. So I can't stress enough, on the adminbar.com, they have this website owner's manual. It's a one-time $40 fee. Amazing. I wish I had it when I was running my agency. Lastly, a little bit of a fun fact. What I've shared to you today, listening, acknowledging, responding, and asking, are not just for sales. This is a standard way to communicate effectively with friends, family, neighbors, strangers. When you show someone that you've taken the time to understand where they're coming from and acknowledge where they're coming from, you verify instantly that everyone's on the same page. When you respond and provide insights that they might not necessarily be thinking about, you've added value to the conversation between you and that other person. And then when you ask a question, you give them the ability to provide their insights and provide how they think about things. And what a great way to work in this world than to understand where people are coming from and try your best to acknowledge that and try your best to provide your own insights so they can understand where you're coming from and use questions to keep the conversation going. So yes, this is a sales presentation, but in reality, it's a how do you talk to human beings presentation. So in conclusion, sales is a communication channel. Good salespeople are honest, which builds trust. Listen, acknowledge, respond, and ask. And then if you'd like, you can follow me on Twitter. I'm at Deep Space Hans, and I asked the admin bar people if they could give me a promo code. For the record, I don't receive an affiliate commission, but if you type in I love Termageddon at checkout, you get $30 off the $40 price tag, which is pretty sweet. The website owner's manual is amazing. I wish I had it as an agency owner. So with all that being said, let's bring this to Q&A. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Hans, so much. That was amazing. So much helpful information and surprisingly funny. Who expected that? If you have not already, go ahead and leave your questions in the chat, and we are going to answer as many as we can. Hans, are you here on with me right now?
I am, Allie. I'm having a little bit of connectivity issues, but I'm ready to go and I can hear you just fine.
Awesome, no worries. Well, thank you so much for being here and for kicking off the event with us today. You ready to get some questions answered?
Let's do it.
Awesome. All right, so let's start with the first one that I saw come in from Karen. She asks, what is the best approach when the client's objection is budget?
Well, budget is something that every single company in the world deals with. And when I hear budget, what I hear is that maybe they're a cash-strapped company and maybe they just simply don't have it. But I think what you need to do is ask questions to find out if that's really the truth, or are they just don't like a subscription fee and they just don't want to sign up and pay a subscription fee. And I believe the questions that can help get to the truth would be seeing if they have a strategy themselves to keep their website up to date when the laws change. And that's where I would focus my questions around. I would ask questions, find out if they really truly have the plan in place to manage the website themselves. And where my response would be, obviously I have to acknowledge next, but where my response would most likely be would be people, it's important to remember that yes, you are paying money and that sucks because it'd be better if you could just do it for free, of course. But if I'm not doing it, then that means someone else has to do it, or you're just going to be paying a massive fee to get your website fixed from being hacked in the future. So when you tell me that, you don't want to pay, you don't have it in the budget, that's totally fine. And if that's the situation, I can give you the materials so that you can do it yourself. But I just wonder, how much more does it actually cost you, maybe not directly, but indirectly, for you to have on your daily bucket list to constantly manage your website and make sure it doesn't break. So that's where I would focus my response. And I would be certainly gearing my questions towards figuring out, does the person really not have a budget for this? Or do they just simply not like the idea of subscriptions and they're not willing to listen to you yet on the value of what makes the maintenance plan so valuable?
Got it. That's amazing comprehensive answer. Thank you.
Sure.
The next question that we have comes in from ATT East. What should one charge a client for monthly maintenance? And so that seems to me very subjective. So maybe we can twist that into how do you figure out maybe what you should charge monthly for maintenance?
Yeah, let's go with that. So there are three. So I'm going to reference my experience when running an agency and how I formed it. But there's three bases for how I would form it: how much hosting costs, and I would add money on top because there's time. I mean, I had staff, so I had to pay my accountants to process bills and stuff. So whatever the hosting fee is, I would add something on top, maybe 20% or something like that for our time. And we used high-powered hosting providers. So, we wouldn't be, a lot of people say, I want to build the best website in the world, but then I want to use the cheapest host out there possible. And it's just, there's a disconnect there that you need to use this process of acknowledging, responding, asking to get down to the bottom of it, because there's a disconnect there when you want the best site in the world, but you want to pay nothing to have it on a crap server. So we would always use an expensive server, like $30 a month for a server, something like that. And then we would charge 20% on top. So nothing significant there. And then we had to calculate our maintenance, which is what we define maintenance as how often do we go into a website and update it. And the numbers that we were seeing was, it's been a little bit since I was running my agency, but I can say that we decided to assign about $70 to a month for how much it costs plus profit to monitor and manage plugin updates and theme updates. And then the final, so now we're at about $110 per month is where my company was getting to. And I think that's how we started off, $110 a month. We do hosting and maintenance. And then we offered an additional package where instead of $120 an hour, which is what our hourly rate was ultimately over 7 years, we would offer our support rate at $100 if they paid for 1 hour of support each month, and they had to agree to a year. So I think that was our next plan higher. And then there's an important thing to note. Whenever it was an e-commerce website, we basically just doubled everything. Like, because e-commerce, there's more moving parts to an e-commerce website. There's the fact that there's a brand new user type, an administrator of their company logging in every day to a whole separate area, managing automated emails. There's so much more that goes into e-commerce. So e-commerce, I think the starting packages were $200 a month and upwards. Yeah. And you might be thinking to yourself, oh my gosh, that's so much more than my clients could ever pay. And I get that because I've lost the hair. I know what it's like to run an agency and think I should just charge the cheapest price as possible. But you got to remember that you yourself need to survive and thrive running your own business, because if you don't, you will burn out and you will leave, and that's going to put your clients in a much worse situation. So yeah, I guess in conclusion, I'd say at least $100 a month.
There you go. All right. Chandler Reener asks, how can we best apply the sales pages of our websites? Any tips on how to write meaningful sales copy?
Well, can you read it one more time? I just want to make sure I understand it.
I think we might be missing a word here, but we can do our best. How can we best apply this? I guess maybe he's asking, how can we best apply like what you've said, what you've talked about, to the sales pages of our websites? Do you have any tips on how to write meaningful sales copy?
Okay, love it. So there's a very big difference, in my opinion, between a website educating people and a phone call where you can have an exchange with someone. So you have to remember, at least the clients I would have, most of them came to my website because they wanted the prettiest website in the world. And so that's how we were getting inquiries. So we knew that to have a conversation, to have them fill out that inquiry and submit that form, we had to appeal to them, which was, well, if they want pretty websites, let's make our website pretty. And that's what we did. We invested tons of time and energy into like adding very subtle animations and just making sure it looked clean and operated very cleanly, because that's what they were looking for. So we matched what these prospects desired by showing right on our own website, we can build pretty things. But the moment they inquired, the game changed, because now I have the opportunity to have an exchange with them where now I can figure out, do you just need a pretty site? Which has happened. That absolutely happened over the years. Like, yeah, we have our own marketing team. We have our own SEO. We need your design skills. Okay, fine. But most of the time it was, well, no, the pretty site will bring me tons more website traffic. Okay. All right. We have some issues here that we need to peel back the onion and get down to. So I would message the website in terms of what you think your average prospect does, or what your average prospect is thinking when considering reaching out to your business. I would not be focused on trying to change their outlook into what they want without having a conversation with them.
Got it. Well, we have time for just one more question. Rick asks, if you're just getting started, do you think that posting an FAQ type of response on your website would work?
Sure. Yeah, FAQs are great. The funny thing is that FAQ stands for frequently asked questions. So if you're just getting going, how could one have frequently asked questions? Which,
right.
But you can probably make an estimate into what you think might be frequently asked questions. I would say that your focus should more be on your home page and your services page and your about page. Have a good about page. Have one that's real, like have a real picture of you. Show who these people will be talking to. Side note, and that's just a preference thing, but your homepage, your services page, your about page, and your contact page, I believe, are more important than your FAQ page, especially when you're starting off.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Hans, so much for being here. Where can people get in touch with you or find out more about you after this is all said and done?
So I'm pretty active in Twitter these days,
Mhm.
twitter.com slash deep space Hans.
Mhm.
And if you're interested in the Termageddon Agency Partner Program, Termageddon, well, you can find it from Twitter, but Termageddon is TermageDDon.com. And, we give agencies a free set of our policies in the hopes they like our product and want to resell our subscriptions.
Awesome.
So
All righty. Well, Hans, have a fantastic rest of your day. Thank you so much again for being here.
thank you, Allie.